everyone, I'm Heyning. I am here with three fantastic speakers, and this is the Interoperability panel. So if you've been hearing the word interoperability and wondering how that might relate to strategy, to your business ideas, to WebXR publishing, but also to all of the ways in which our experiences fit together and are reached by our audiences. So we're going to begin talking about a number of different factors, from avatars and Ready Player Me with Timu. We're going to talk about AR Cloud with Alina and some of the drivers of both data and performance within the augmented reality space. And also with my colleague Robert at Open Metaverse Interoperability, we're going to be discussing a bit about Gltf and identity and portability of assets as a whole. So first off, I just want to thank you all for joining us here at WebXR Business Summit. And just to contextualize a broad conversation here, we are talking about all of the ways in which those metaverse technologies, those layers of that stack, are going to match up and meet together and share information, whether that's about an individual experience, whether that's about a social experience, or potentially something that we haven't even described yet today. So I would love for each of you to dive in. We're going to start with Timu. If you could tell me a little bit about your work at Ready Player Me and how avatars touch the work of interoperability in the metaverse.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. So my name is Timu. I'm the CEO of Wolf3D, creators of Ready Player Me cross-game avatar platform. What we see is that obviously people are spending more and more time in virtual worlds and playing, collaborating, and the metaverse is happening. And the metaverse is not one app or one experience. It's a network of thousands of different worlds. And for that reason, there need to exist interoperable identities, avatars that travel with you across worlds. You don't want to create a new avatar for each world you visit. And that's what we do in Ready Player Me, with Ready Player Me. So end users can create an avatar that travels with you across all these different partners that we work with. And for developers, we're an easy-to-use avatar engine. You can integrate. You don't have to spend 6 months or a year inventing an avatar system. You get the best avatar system, and you can integrate in a couple of days. Anyways, we've been on the market with Ready Player Me for a little bit more than a year. Today, we have more than 500 companies that already use our avatars, and the network is growing fast. So added 112 companies last month, for example. And you can travel between all these worlds with the one avatar identity, your Ready Player Me identity. We're also exploring opening up the platform to other avatars, from games or from other avatar producers or NFT projects. So overall, we believe that an open metaverse is the only way to build it, and it's the only way, that's the best way to build the metaverse. And for the open metaverse to exist, they need to be cross-game services, cross-game technologies that enable the open metaverse to happen. So it will be built by thousands of different kind of developers and creators, not just one big company that builds a monopoly and builds kind of the Ready Player One future, which is kind of like not actually what we want. Although our name is similar. So, anyways, there's my quick intro.
That's fantastic. So I understand that your Ready Player Me avatars, and I have 4 or 5 of them now. I've used them in hubs and VR chat. They're useful in hundreds of different platforms, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How many people roughly do you know of how many people have been creating avatars over the past year, and where those are finding their use cases now?
Yep. So we've created more than 1 million avatars, and like of the 500 companies we've signed, like 40 of them are launched. The rest are still integrating, or they haven't launched their applications because they're still in development. So there's a lot of like consumer growth still in the pipeline that we haven't kind of unlocked with just by launching those things. So, but yeah, 1 million is the million and a little bit more is the number today.
Got it. So that includes the WebXR experiences, potentially VR apps, things that may not be released yet for virtual events and other types of experiences as well. That's fantastic. So readyplayer.me is where people go to try that experience out. And we're going to come back into a conversation about how you've built some of those relationships and partnerships with Alina as well, because I am absolutely fascinated with all of the ways interoperability finds its foothold. And you've found a foothold in every corner of the digital landscape at this point. So, Alina, I was wondering if you could share a little bit about your work with AR Cloud and also what you've been working on behind the scenes.
Sure. Yeah. So thanks, guys, and thanks, Timo, for what you've done and what you guys are doing. Yeah. I'm Alina. I'm product designer by day and WebXR developer, and I'm director of communication and managing director of OpenAir Cloud Europe, and as well as the strategist of CyberXR Coalition. And for those of you who don't actually know what the OpenAir Cloud is about and what we do, we are basically a global nonprofit organization with the mission to drive the development of open and interoperable spatial computing technology, data standards, and best practices to connect the real and the digital worlds, basically for the benefits of all. And because the current state of spatial computing basically is rather disordered and fragmented, and many exciting spatial computing solutions already exist out there, but there few share a common language. And that's also where WebXR ties in, right? So the great thing about it is, yeah, you already have the power of the web in your hand, and you don't need to download or integrate a specific app. It just works in the browser. And due to COVID, so many brands have been enabling it. And for the last year, we've been working on Sparkle, which is basically our WebXR based client app, and we customize this client application and also provide it as open source. And it's really important to develop it specific AR to not just only one specific AR experience, but also it can run in kind of experience registered with our discovery service of the Open Spatial Computing Platform. And it allows us to basically rather tell than show the capabilities, and also reach out to cities and show the convergence of real-time data and using AR.
So what you're describing then, this open AR cloud, is a way in which we can explore the digital twins and the smart cities ideas that were described earlier, and potentially make those playable experiences as well, correct?
Exactly. Especially when you look at so many cities that are currently kicking off a smart city or digital twin solutions. You basically have thousands of use cases in your hands. For instance, so many water pipes are being damaged, right? So you could basically use WebXR in order to and those are interoperable through any device through the browser.
I think we lost a little bit of what you just said there, but we got interoperable through the device at the end. And I understand a bit of what you are describing with Sparkle, but I'm hoping you can tell me a little bit more. Infrastructure use cases, obviously public sector and cross-sector use cases, things that might be in smart glasses. Is that correct? What other use cases do you see for this?
Exactly. So there are many different use cases. So for instance, you obviously have the whole infrastructure use case, the convergence of real-time data visualized through AR, like pipelines, electricity, but also unlocking potential use cases when it comes to advertisement or roadmaps, public transportation, gamification and navigation, emergence of also with connection with our universal geopose standard that we are currently developing within the OGC, a universal anchoring standard that we are kicking off. And this is all open source and available to take and make it yourself.
That's exciting, and I can't wait to see more. And Alina, I understand that you're going to be demoing more of Sparkle. This is brand new work that you are sharing with us, and I hope that we're going to have more of that shared with us soon, whether it's at Open Metaverse Interoperability demos or at other experiences coming up soon. And thank you for creating in the open space and for the open source community. Robert, I think this is a great segue to the work that you've been doing, and maybe connecting the work of OpenAR Cloud with the work of OMI at Open Metaverse Interoperability.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, so I'm Robert Long. I'm one of the co-chairs of the Open Metaverse Interoperability Group, along with yourself, Evo, and our other partner, Jesse Alton. And we really came together based off of a Twitter conversation originally, and trying to figure out how we can bridge virtual worlds. We're doing that primarily through developing protocols, bringing people from the community together to have like these hard conversations about like how we are going to bridge the gaps between all of these different siloed virtual worlds. So we're working on standards for avatars, inventory, social graphs, identity, figuring out how privacy works into these things, interoperable content. That's really where we've made the biggest strides so far, is figuring out how we can make richer GLTF content for avatars, virtual objects, and environments.
I don't know if you caught the panel with Tony Parisi earlier today, but I loved how he described GLTF as the JPEG of 3D. Really nice, simple, clean way to understand why GLTF interoperability in specific reduces risk, reduces cost, and makes it a lot easier for us to publish and create together. Is that how you see these things sort of meeting the creators and meeting the industry as a whole?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like GLTF and Tony in particular really got me into this sort of space. So thanks, Tony, a lot. And bringing it back to one of his early inventions, I really think that GLTF can be the HTML for virtual worlds, not unlike VRML did a long time ago. And that's really just because it's this really great extensible format that has gained a whole bunch of traction within all of these different 3D tools. Game engines are getting support for it. We're seeing just a lot of excitement around it. And when it comes to describing avatars, whether it be with VRM or 3D objects with GLTF, we've got the entire Sketchfab marketplace selling GLTF assets now. It's absolutely amazing. It's getting that sort of inflection point where this type of media is going to really proliferate around the web.
So when we're talking about interoperability with GLTF, it's specifically about getting these assets and all of the aspects of this code to work across as many platforms as possible, correct? This is what we're describing in this case. So if you've got your art and it looks beautiful in one world, you want it to look as beautiful in another world as well. And there's a number of ways in which that degrades if you're trying to do a experience like we are doing today, where it might be across 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different platforms. What is the state of GLTF interoperability now, and where is that work happening, Robert?
It's happening in all sorts of places. So the Kronos group is the specification maintainer, and they've done a really great job at solving all the really hard problems of figuring out how to make materials look the same everywhere, figuring out how to describe materials in ways that are supported across all these different engines. Where I think we're headed next is extending upon that to add things like behaviors, things like additional programmable materials, things that we need in order to really replace things like Unity's asset bundles, or however Unreal bundles things, whether it be in WADs or things like that. It's really getting close to being useful to describe like programmatic sort of behaviors. We can start putting game-related data into this scene format pretty soon here. And we've already kind of kicked off some of that work with our audio emitter spec with OMI. Yeah.
So I should be able to take my interactive art out of Second Life from 10 years ago and someday put it into a number of worlds and then have my Ready Player Me avatar and give tours of all of this connected experience. Is that reasonable to dream ahead toward at this stage?
Absolutely. It should have a really long life. You should be able to take it on Sketchfab, sell it, have other people remix it. The more portable we make these 3D pieces of content, the more versatile it's going to be, the better it is for content creators, the better it is for tool developers. Yeah, it's just interoperability is really mutually beneficial for everyone.
Right. And at the end of the day, for those of you who are agencies or are working with creators, it's also reducing the time to get something in front of an audience at the end of the day. You are hopefully not having to publish it across many different platforms. You can publish it once and then have it then republished or at least shared in some reasonable way. And these are goals that the interoperability community has been moving toward for a long time. I'm wondering if we could all speak to, in our conversations earlier, we talked about addressing fragmentation and how interoperability addresses fragmentation and sort of a lack of connection. I was wondering if you could each speak to how your work, both now and moving ahead, addresses fragmentation in our culture.
Sure, I guess I can kick it off. By the way, Gltf is awesome. We use it for most of the stuff we do. And yeah, anyway, so that's great. So how we help build a more connected metaverse, I guess, is by building first the cross-game avatars. And what the cross-game avatars enable is a cross-game economy also. So you can have an economy that exists across different worlds. You can sell assets that work across different worlds. You can attach things to your avatar, and the avatar kind of becomes a vehicle for those assets. So by building a cross-game economy, that becomes very interesting, right? Generally, open economies tend to generate more revenue for everyone involved. So if you have an open economy for avatars, then that just increases the pie for avatar assets for everyone. So creators can create stuff and sell them across worlds. Games can sell stuff that work in other worlds, and all that stuff. So we see the avatar as a vehicle that kind of takes different assets between worlds, because there's a lot of assets that are very hard just from the kind of gameplay mechanics, whatever perspective, to take from one world to another. You have a sword, we're not going to take it to a shooter or to a random hangout, I guess. I don't know what, so the avatar is your identity. It makes sense that it's persistent across worlds. And when you attach assets to it, then the assets will also be persistent across worlds. So that's kind of how we see that. But yeah.
I'm excited for that time when we can all have our beautifully cultivated identities, and the hats and all of those accessories and all of that fashion is fully portable. For the rest of you, where do you see your work addressing fragmentation right now?
Not just only on a platform side, but also on a legislation side, especially being located here in Europe, making sure that we also have privacy ethics built into this, and also making sure that we have legislation that actually is able to adjust to these emerging technologies, making sure that we have agile legislations, because are all contextual based. So there's also a couple of dilemmas where we can actually learn from the whole AI aspects of moral dilemmas and all these things that we can actually embed into the XR and the Metaverse world, where at the end it's what makes this technology strong is those convergence of these technologies at the end coming together. So also making sure that we as humans are at the center of it, and that we make sure, and this is also important for the whole interoperability aspect, so not just only on a platform side, but also on a legal side.
Right. And Robert?
I just want to echo the privacy part is humongously important, and we've been working off and on with XRSI on trying to make sure that we involve privacy and security into any standards that come out of our work. So yeah, that's a huge thing. On that as well, the social fragmentation, I think, is something that really needs to be addressed. We are kind of in a state where every single virtual world has their own social graph, and like that works, but it's pretty tough to like go between one place and the next, figure out where your friends are at any one point, figure out how to join up with them. So I mean, there's a lot of different protocols and standards out there working on this problem for social media or for chat or for other things like that. So I think there's a lot of existing work for us to like collaborate on and involve in creating a actual social metaverse.
I'm excited to see that social metaverse where we can all see each other and see the events that are happening and plug in with the different communities, because they are somewhat niche communities, and it is the power of these communities that keeps people coming back over and over again, not just for a one-time experience, but to participate in, whether it's, you know, hackathons or in any sort of engagement. The power of the community in the metaverse is often underrepresented and underrealized. And so whether that's participating in a community like OMI on Discord, which you are absolutely welcome to, if you go to omigroup.org, you're welcome to find out more about how to participate in any of these Discord communities. The WebXR community and many of these platforms have their own Discord communities where you can plug in and really try new experiments around collaboration and creativity, and figure out what you can do in extensibility as well. I was wondering if all three of you could talk a little bit about your strategies around building partnerships for interoperability. And as those of us who are new to this, if you're thinking about how do you build these relationships effectively, I would love to hear from each of you. What strategies have you been using in this time?
Yeah, I mean, whenever you want to work with anyone, you need to have something they need. So you need to solve their problems, you know, and that goes to interoperable solutions as well. So in our case, we built an avatar creator that solves a problem without being a network, without being interoperable. It solves your avatar problems when you're building a game that needs avatars today. You know, it doesn't matter if those avatars are only in your game or they travel to other places. So we built a tool that is extremely useful, and that's our background also. You know, we spent many years building avatar systems for Tencent, Huawei, HTC, Vodafone, Verizon, and many other companies. So we started from the tool and providing value with that. And then now we're kind of getting to a network stage already, but still early. And now we can start bringing the kind of interoperability benefits and building a cross-game economy and kind of helping developers onboard new users and all these different things. But, you know, you need to have something that people need. And that's the thing, like when the solution that, if it only works on scale, it's very hard to get to scale. And that's like the case with any marketplace, any, you know, network effects based business, whatever. Like you need to figure out a way to seed the marketplace, or you need to figure out a way to create the early network so people would get the real value. Or you build a tool that is valuable on its own, and by having this tool, you actually, you know, manage to build a network, and then it gets more and more useful over time. So I guess that's the main thing, and that's like why we have managed to sign 500 companies over the last year, is because our tools are useful as a tool. And then
Great
And then
products.
yeah, it's a good product. You know, it solves a problem today. So
I also want to say your team has been very responsive. And when I came to them saying, hey, is there a non-binary option around those of us who don't consider ourselves male or female? Your team figured that out really quickly. And
yeah,
thank you for making those kinds of leaps forward toward inclusivity and representation for everyone else in the metaverse too. So thank you for making that happen. And for the rest of you, Alina and Robert, how do you see partnerships and how are you unlocking those interoperability strategies?
Yeah, on our end, basically, we are a nonprofit organization. So first of all, 3 years ago, we've been conducting what is out there, how does the AR ecosystem looks like, and from there, we've sort of kicked off. And the idea of the open spatial computing platform was basically born, and that sort of converged. And now we are actually at state where we see, okay, how can we hook up with our technology and also with the GeoPost standard and existing ecosystems like smart city initiatives, and also to join forces here in the EU, build consortiums, join together with researchers, and work together.
I've been so excited to read more about your work, and I can't wait to see Sparkle. So I hope that we get a chance to collaborate and work together in some way between our work at OMI and OpenAR Cloud. Thank you for joining us today. And Robert, strategies and how do you approach collaboration and partnerships for interoperability?
Yeah, I mean, we're really early. Like we're a fairly young organization, so I think we're still learning. But so far, it's been really just figuring out where we align, figuring out out of all the different parties, there are a lot of WebXR parties. There are a lot of people working on native applications. There are people in the crypto space. There are people who are very much not in the crypto space. So there are all these different things. Sometimes at odds with each other, sometimes completely in alignment. And so it's really trying to figure out where we can work together and finding other people who share like common values that we all kind of agree on. So when we first started out, we wrote a mission statement. We got all of our values as a group aligned. And that's really helped as we grow the community, is to try and figure out how does this new project, how does this new protocol, this new standard fit in with our values, and find other parties that are interested in the same thing.
And I have to say, Robert, it's been a blast figuring it out with you and experimenting and trying things. And for those of you who like open source development and independent development and just trying it out, communities like OMI are a great place to find your others. And while our community meets on Discord and collaborates using GitHub and other tools, there are lots of metaverse communities that you can plug in with, whether that's in your favorite platform, or whether that's in Web3 and crypto and decentralized identity and in all of the things that go along with bringing your assets and your wallets from world to world. There's obviously a lot of terrain that we can continually explore. We don't have easy portals from one world to the other right now. We don't have the kinds of I can grab my assets and backpack and just go and share it all the way through. And so there's a lot of terrain. Would each of you just take a moment and 3 to 5 years, just big picture, what do you want to see happen in terms of interoperability and our collective work together?
Yeah, I want to see usable products that make my life better, compared to living in a closed world. So that's what we are trying to build, and that's what I think we all need to build. Real solutions that make life better, being interoperable.
I think we need those portals between virtual worlds. We really need to figure that out. It's been in the works for a long time, and I think if we get together and really work hard enough, we can make it happen.
Portals will be sweet.
Yeah.
Alina, last thoughts?
Making sure that we build a better future for the benefit of all of us and not wake up in a Black Mirror scenario in 10 years.
That's right. The metaverse is the future of the public commons, and how we collaborate and where we collaborate matters. So we welcome you to our communities, whether that's at OpenAir Cloud, OMI, and here at the WebXR Summit. Thank you for having us here today. Samantha, Julie, all of you, Ben behind the scenes, thank you for having us here.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining.